Hi, everyone. Welcome to tonight's monthly picket action for Free Alex Saab, End Sanctions on Venezuela, U.S. Canada hands off Venezuela. We will give our participants a minute to join. Thank you for coming tonight. Hi again, everyone. We'll be starting in just 1 minute. Welcome. Hello, everyone. Greetings and solidarity from Vancouver, Canada. This is Allison Bodine. I am the chair of tonight's 32nd monthly consecutive picket action demanding free Alex Saab, U.S. or political prisoner and held in the United States, Venezuelan diplomat Alex Saab, U.S. Canada hands off Venezuela. Thank you for joining us here tonight. I am the coordinator of the Fire This Time Movement for Social Justice Venezuela Solidarity Campaign, as well as author of the book Revolution and Counter-Revolution in Venezuela from Battle of Ideas Press. And it is my honor to be with you all here tonight, gathered from the United States, Canada, Venezuela, and around the world, to hear from an excellent dynamic panel of speakers about urgent cases for social justice, for us as peace-loving people to support and to work for, to hopefully work together to build a stronger and more united movement in solidarity with Venezuela and for freedom for Alex Saab. Tonight's picket is being broadcast from here in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, the traditional and unceded territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish Coast Salish nations. I encourage people, as many are doing already, to post in the chat where you're joining the picket from today, and feel free to post in English or Spanish. If you are listening to me in English, it's because I'm speaking English, and tonight's program is being simultaneously translated by our excellent interpreters, Julieta and Mercedes. And in order to access the English or Spanish channel in the interpretation system, you go to the bottom of your screen or under the 3 dots on your phone or tablet. And under there, there should be a globe icon. And under that icon, you can choose whether to listen to tonight's program in English or in Spanish. There's also an option there that says mute original audio, and I suggest you use that. There's more information in the chat about the interpretation system. The picket action, which I said is the 32nd monthly, is organized by the Venezuela Peace Committee in Winnipeg, Fire This Time Movement for Social Justice Venezuela Solidarity Campaign, and Just Peace Advocates. with the support of Venezuela solidarity organizations and individuals across Canada. Today's picket is especially significant because just last week, October 16th, 2023, marked 2 years that Venezuelan diplomat Alex Saab has been unjustly held in US jail. It has been over 3 years since he was first abducted at the command of the US government in Cape Verde. His work as a Venezuelan diplomat would have enabled the people of Venezuela to receive more fuel, food, and medical supplies. And the work that he was able to complete before he was put in jail and under house arrest in Cape Verde did just this. It circumvented the sanctions and saved lives in Venezuela. Because of this work in defending Venezuela's independence, their self-determination, their ability to trade with other countries not under control of the US government, Alex Saab has been separated from his family, imprisoned, and tortured at the hands of the US government. So as we mark this horrific 2 years that he's been held in US jail, we will hear today more about his case and arm ourselves with the information that we need in order to build a broad support for the case of Alex Saab. This month's picket will also hear important updates and analysis from activists and analysts from the US, Canada, and direct from Venezuela who are fighting for Alex Saab's freedom and against criminal sanctions on Venezuela. This includes discussing the recent so-called sanctions relief announced by the US government, which temporarily, for a 6-month period and a conditional 6-month period, lifts sanctions on some sectors of Venezuela's oil industry, as well as, of course, discussing some of what's been happening in Venezuela when it comes to the US government and other imperialist governments' interventions in Venezuela's upcoming presidential elections. For the panel today, we have ANAHÍ ARIZMENDI from Venezuela, José Luis Granados Ceja, who's joining us from Mexico, and MEDEA BENJAMIN, speaking from the United States, who has just visited Alex Saab in the Miami jail. I'm really looking forward to the panel today, and I want to give another big thank you, not only to our panelists, but to everyone who has joined here tonight. We will start our panel today with ANAHÍ ARIZMENDI, who is a Venezuelan human rights activist and a journalist, an author. She is from the National Directorate of the National Union of Women in Venezuela, known as UNAMUJER, and is also a director of the Bicentennial Women's Front 200, among other important work and research. So ANAHÍ, welcome. It's my pleasure to have you here tonight.
Gracias, Alison, y saludar a todo el movimiento internacional desde Caracas, Venezuela. Un abrazo amoroso a todo el movimiento que internacionalmente está hoy por hoy activando por la libertad de nuestro diplomático Alex Saab, pero que también han estado todos estos años acompañando a nuestro pueblo con actividades, conversatorios, foros, movilizaciones en contra de estas medidas coercitivas unilaterales, estas agresiones criminales que han impactado los derechos humanos de nuestro pueblo. Saludar también al panel, tanto a José Luis Granados como a MEDEA BENJAMIN de Code Pink y a todo el movimiento también en Estados Unidos y en Canadá. Siempre agradecemos su solidaridad y todo lo que fue la batalla también por mantener nuestras embajadas, nuestro territorio en sus países. Agradecer también, saludar a todo el equipo de CONAICO, de México y también de otros países, los medios alternativos, y reciban, bueno, todos ustedes un abrazo grande de las mujeres venezolanas, de la Unión Nacional de Mujeres, de todos sus movimientos confederados, que somos las mujeres en nuestro país, la vanguardia de la revolución bolivariana. Y como mujeres y vanguardia, evidentemente estamos también al frente de todo lo que son las luchas por la paz, las luchas contra las injusticias y en este momento la lucha por la liberación de nuestro diplomático Alex Saab, que como comentabas, recientemente cumplió 2 años secuestrado por el gobierno de Estados Unidos, pero que ya tiene 3 desde el proceso en Cabo Verde. En ese sentido, quisiera compartir también algunos datos sobre el impacto de las medidas coercitivas unilaterales, del bloqueo en los derechos humanos de niños, niñas y adolescentes, mujeres y familias en el país, recopilado también en este libro que se titula Infancia bajo asedio, impacto de las medidas coercitivas unilaterales en los derechos humanos de niños, niñas y adolescentes del 2015 al 2019, es decir, desde el decreto de Obama hasta el año 2019, donde toda la estrategia de Estados Unidos con el gobierno autoproclamado de Juan Guaidó. Y me gustaría compartir algunos datos para que pudiéramos entender la dimensión que tiene y lo que significa la liberación de Alex Saab y el papel humanitario, solidario, de ese hombre que no se doblega, que no se rinde, que ha estado sometido a todo tipo de torturas y que jugó un papel fundamental en brindar, en traer alimentos y medicamentos a nuestro pueblo. Estamos hablando de que Alex Saab, junto seguramente muchos otros también, y toda la resistencia del pueblo venezolano, pero Alex Saab jugó un papel fundamental en años muy duros para nuestro pueblo. Del 2015 al 2019 estamos, y que hoy se mantienen sobre Venezuela hay 933 medidas coercitivas unilaterales en este momento. Somos el segundo país mal llamado sancionado porque no hemos hecho nada, ni nadie tiene el derecho a sancionarnos en el mundo. El primero actualmente es Rusia, que hemos sido sometidos a toda una serie de políticas de exterminio en lo que es la materia de alimentos y medicamentos. Porque cuando estamos hablando de una política exterior estadounidense que ha venido utilizando los alimentos como municiones de guerra, que convirtió nuestros puertos en puertos de guerra, que impedía que llegaran alimentos al pueblo venezolano, podemos entonces entender también la dimensión del esfuerzo de Alex Saab, de la articulación de Alex Saab, del trabajo de Alex Saab, junto con otros países, legado de todo este mundo multipolar de nuestro comandante Chávez y el presidente Nicolás Maduro. Y en ese sentido estamos hablando de, por ejemplo, medidas que tuvieron un impacto en la población venezolana. En Venezuela era un país que para el 2015 había cumplido todas las metas del milenio. La única meta que no habíamos cumplido y estábamos trabajando en ella era la reducción de la mortalidad materna. A partir del 2015 comienzan a alterarse todas estas metas, producto del impacto en la llegada de alimentos, que incrementó, por ejemplo, el índice de prevalencia de subalimentación, producto de también todo lo que fue el cerco a través de las fronteras de Colombia y Brasil, bajo los gobiernos neoliberales que impidieron que llegaran millones de toneladas de alimentos. Estamos hablando, para dar unos ejemplos y para poder entender entonces lo importante de la lucha de Alex Saab y de lo que hizo Alex Saab, uno por año, si se quiere, porque son muchos los ejemplos. En septiembre de 2017, por ejemplo, estamos hablando de 18 millones de cajas de alimentos subsidiadas para el programa de los comités locales de abastecimiento y producción, los CLAP, que es un programa en el cual voluntariamente hoy más de 40.000 hombres y mujeres llevan alimentos y distribuyen casa por casa, que fueron bloqueados por el sistema financiero estadounidense producto de las medidas coercitivas unilaterales. Por ejemplo, en el 2018 el gobierno de Colombia bloqueó el envío de Venezuela de más de 400.000 kilos de alimentos destinados a los CLAP. En el 2019, por ejemplo, estamos hablando de firmas internacionales, porque el bloqueo tiene muchas expresiones en el sistema financiero, en el ataque a la frontera, luego en el 2019 en lo que fue además el secuestro de nuestros recursos y bienes a través de toda esa fachada del gobierno autoproclamado de Juan Guaidó. Impactó también, por ejemplo, la llegada de toneladas de kilos de pernil o cerdo o cochino, según como lo digan en cada país, en Navidad, que es una comida típica venezolana. Muchos alimentos pagados, muchos alimentos que iban a ser distribuidos y que no pudieron pasar la frontera y que impactaron los programas sociales venezolanos. Aquí todo este bloqueo ha tenido como honor impactar sobre todo nuestra economía, nuestra industria petrolera. En el 2019 los ingresos llegaron prácticamente a cero por producto del bloqueo y el sabotaje a la industria petrolera, y eso evidentemente impactó la inversión social que la misma Naciones Unidas, incluso relatores de Naciones Unidas reconocen que en Venezuela se destina más del 70% del presupuesto a la inversión social. En ese panorama estuvo todo ese accionar y ese esfuerzo de nuestro diplomático Alex Saab de contactar empresas, de hablar con gobiernos, de hablar con instituciones, de buscar cómo triangular la posibilidad de que llegaran alimentos y medicamentos a Venezuela. Estamos hablando de unos años en que las 16 más grandes empresas farmacéuticas se fueron del país. No había entrada de medicamentos y con el impacto del bloqueo, más del 50% de los medicamentos que se distribuyen gratuitamente en el país, sobre todo para enfermedades crónicas, no pudieran llegar. Ahí también estuvo todo la mano y la actividad solidaria de Alex Saab. Es por eso que Alex Saab, sin duda, es un trofeo del gobierno estadounidense que lo juzga y lo secuestra para presionar y para intentar hacer ejemplo a otros que quieran ayudar al país. Pero no lo ha logrado porque Alex es una persona que a pesar de todas las torturas, a pesar del aislamiento, no se ha doblegado, no se ha rendido y mantiene, digamos, su orgullo y su dignidad por todo lo que ha hecho por el país. Estamos hablando, además de la gran dimensión que tiene la labor de Alex Saab, de todo lo que fue la lucha por que llegaran medicamentos a Venezuela. En Venezuela, por ejemplo, también la posibilidad de que llegaran medicamentos a la frontera, o por ejemplo las vacunas, fueron también torpedeadas por los gobiernos neoliberales de Colombia y Brasil. Estamos hablando de, por ejemplo, durante la crisis de malaria, porque se rompió el ciclo de vacunas, Colombia impidió que cientos de miles de vacunas entraran por esa frontera. Y es gracias a las labores de Alex Saab que se pudo también triangular, y todo el esfuerzo de nuestro gobierno y todo el esfuerzo, la solidaridad de los países en toda esta política, además la diplomacia de los pueblos y en toda la política multipolar, que nosotros pudimos avanzar en poder recuperar y mantener el ciclo de vacunas, el ciclo de medicamentos, todo lo que fue el impacto en los repuestos para los hospitales. Venezuela, por ejemplo, el Hospital Cardiológico Infantil, que atiende no solo a niños venezolanos, sino también en toda América Latina, en esos años redujo el número de operaciones en casi un 50%, producto de el no acceso a mantenimientos y reactivos que se necesitaban, que se impedían llegar al país. Hoy nosotros hemos logrado superar muchos de estos indicadores. Estamos en un proceso aún ciertamente bloqueados, luchando contra el bloqueo, pero un proceso también de recuperación gracias al esfuerzo de nuestro pueblo en conjunto con el gobierno nacional y todo lo que han sido los programas sociales, el modelo de inclusión social, que es el que Alex también ha defendido. Este modelo de inclusión social que nos ha permitido también enfrentar esta guerra tan criminal que se ha desarrollado no solo contra Venezuela, sino también contra el mundo y muchos países en el planeta. Y ahí también hay que redimensionar y por qué la importancia de todo este movimiento internacional, porque cuando hablamos de Alex Saab, hablamos de la lucha que hoy están dando más de 30 países en el mundo que están sujetos y son víctimas de estas mal llamadas sanciones criminales. Es decir, el 28% de la población del planeta, el 77% del territorio del mundo que hoy es víctima de estas mal llamadas sanciones, que son agresiones criminales que solo tienen como objetivo cambiar por la fuerza aquellos gobiernos que les son incómodos a Estados Unidos o sus países aliados. Y ahí entonces también la dimensión internacional de esta lucha y de esfuerzos como los de Alex Saab, porque estamos hablando en este momento, cuando nos enfrentamos a las sanciones, a la importancia de la defensa de la paz para la humanidad. En un momento en que estamos viviendo todo este genocidio en Palestina, toda esta situación internacional, países que también son sancionados, y en el caso de Palestina, que vive en un campo de concentración, redimensionamos aún más la lucha de Alex Saab y la importancia entonces de el internacionalismo y la solidaridad, y hay que reconocer entonces todo el esfuerzo, Alison, todo el equipo y todo el equipo de Free Alex Saab que vienen realizando en el mundo, no solo en solidaridad con Venezuela, sino también en esta lucha de la humanidad contra la barbarie. Las mujeres como constructoras de paz nos hemos incorporado desde un principio, todo el movimiento de mujeres, a todas las actividades de solidaridad por Alex Saab, conversatorios, movilizaciones, actividades con todo el movimiento en Venezuela y de solidaridad, además con su esposa Camila, que también ha sido vilmente atacada producto de unos grupos reaccionarios que han querido no solo intentar agredirla desde el punto de vista moral y de su integridad. Camila es una mujer sumamente fuerte, una luchadora, una activista de los derechos humanos y tiene toda la solidaridad del movimiento de mujeres. Así que esta es una lucha sin duda global. En el caso venezolano ha costado vidas producto de esta guerra multidimensional. Hay que decir que aunque las guerras sean de quinta generación, no quiere decir que no dejen personas heridas, personas fallecidas, y gracias a las acciones de Alex Saab, muchas personas pudieron salvarse, muchas personas pudieron ser atendidas ante toda esta situación de operación tenaza que se ha querido desarrollar contra el pueblo venezolano, que con su resistencia, su organización, su nobleza, su amor, su profunda solidaridad, ha venido saliendo adelante contra todas estas agresiones criminales, con Chávez en nuestro corazón y acompañando a nuestro hermano el presidente Nicolás Maduro. Y en este momento, luchando con toda nuestra fuerza por quien se comprometió, se la jugó por el pueblo venezolano. Y cuando hablamos del pueblo, cuando hablamos de estos datos, estamos hablando de rostros, de familias, de niños, niñas y adolescentes que no pudieron ser operados a tiempo, que no pudieron ser vacunados a tiempo, que no pudieron tener suficientes alimentos producto de toda esta guerra criminal, que además estas medidas impactan no solo en el momento, sino para el futuro, porque un niño que no se alimenta adecuadamente o que no se vacuna en el momento, es un niño que puede tener y puede verse afectado su desarrollo. Por eso es que nosotras insistimos que las medidas coercitivas unilaterales son una amenaza para la aplicación de la Convención Internacional de los Derechos del Niño y para el cumplimiento de los objetivos del milenio. En esa dimensión queremos ubicar toda esta lucha de Alex Saab, que es una dimensión enorme cuando vemos en el marco de todo el sufrimiento que ha tenido el pueblo venezolano, pero que a la vez ha respondido con su alegría, su poder popular organizado y su modelo inclusivo. En esa dimensión hay que ver la lucha de Alex Saab y la lucha que estamos dando hoy con este internacionalismo solidario que está acompañando las luchas más nobles de nuestros pueblos en el mundo. Agradecer de verdad a todos y a todas por su solidaridad eterna con nuestro pueblo, invitarlas a que sigamos con todo nuestro empeño y compromiso en esta lucha por la liberación de nuestro diplomático Alex Saab, injustamente secuestrado y que simboliza esta lucha actual de la humanidad contra la barbarie. Muchísimas gracias.
Great, Alex Saab. Thank you, ANAHÍ, for that overview of the horrible impact of sanctions on Venezuela. and for sharing with us your book, Childhood Under Attack. I hope that the next time that I'm in Venezuela, I can get a copy of your book. I will be very glad to. And we can
Te
share
lo
it
voy a
with you.
mandar digital, Alison. Se me
Qué
olvidó
bueno.
decirles para que lo puedas distribuir
you.
a todos y a
Thank
todos los
you.
países. Gracias.
Excellent, thank you. And also, yes, an important reminder of on the ground what the impact of sanctions have been, which have been part of Venezuela's reality really since Venezuela decided to chart their own independent path of self-determination. Venezuelans took their government into their own hands. But since then, and strongly since Obama in 2015, we understand just how deeply and profoundly these sanctions have impacted everyday life, coming not only from the United States, but also from Canada here. So thank you very much. And this is, of course, as you said, exactly what Alex Saab was working against, exactly why someone like Alex Saab, a Venezuelan diplomat, was necessary to do the work of making contracts, of traveling internationally, was because of the blockade on Venezuela. And our next speaker is someone that was able to actually meet with Alex Saab in U.S. prison, in jail in Miami. Just last week, we've heard stories about Alex Saab. We've been honored to hear the words of Alex Saab himself on the call, or hear from Camilla Fabry Saab, his wife and tireless fighter for his freedom. But it's also important that we can hear from others who have visited Alex Saab, and hopefully encourage more people who have the means to be able to visit him, especially those that have, an important platform in the social justice or anti-war movement, like MEDEA Benjamin. So MEDEA Benjamin is here with us. She is co-founder of the woman-led peace group Code Pink, and also the human rights group Global Exchange, among many other organizations and important work. MEDEA has been an advocate for social justice for 50 years, and she recently visited Alex Saab in US prison, as I've mentioned. So thank you, MEDEA, for joining us here today.
Well, thank you so much. It's really an honor to be on this panel with the others of you. And of course, an incredible honor to have been able to visit Alex Saab. I am no expert, and I'm glad, ANAHÍ, that you gave such a great presentation to set the stage, because what I can talk about is really just reflections on a visit. And I'm sorry for those of you who know these things much more deeply than I do. For me, it was really a revelation to be able to spend time with somebody who, I must admit, I had wondered, well, this guy was a businessman. He was used to like wheeling and dealing. Maybe he was making a lot of money. And what I found with this incredibly humble, committed man who had no reason to get involved in Venezuela for any kind of monetary reasons. I mean, he was a wealthy businessman in Colombia. He said he had 50,000 employees at one time. But when he went to Venezuela, he got so committed by the process there and so upset by what the US sanctions were doing. And he said what an honor it was for him to be able to try to get food and medicines to millions of people in Venezuela. Now you talked about the kinds of things that he had to do to get the food and medicine in. He said, you would never know all the crazy things they had to do of changing, covering up the names of ships, of changing planes, of all of these things just to get food and medicines into Venezuela. It made me so ashamed of being a US citizen. It made me so ashamed of what my government was doing. And then, of course, the kidnapping in Cape Verde and the treatment that he received there. And he started to talk about it and immediately broke down crying when he talked about the torture that was inflicted upon him. And of course, I didn't want to push him to go into that because it was so painful. But he said that he would, he said that it was the Americans who were doing it to him, of course, with the complicity of the people of Cape Verde. And he also talked about, as ANAHÍ did, the kind of blackmailing of his relatives, the kind of pressure that was put on everyone, his sisters who had not even living in Venezuela, his older sons, his wife, his wife's family, and the strength of his wife. And this was another time when he teared up as talking about Camila and how she has kept this family together, she has kept this struggle together, and all the things that she has gone through. The issue of his health, of course, I asked after his health. He is, as many of you know, a cancer survivor. He has diabetes. And in June, he was able to see a doctor in the prison who said to him, well, you have a very high blood pressure, so you should go back to your cell and put your feet up and relax. And that was the kind of medical advice that he got. He should be having a special diet, which he doesn't have. He should be getting special medication, which he doesn't have. And he has been trying to get a private doctor to give him a full medical checkup, but hasn't been able to do that. He did talk about how he does not expect to get a fair hearing in Miami, whether it's with a judge who is shown, the judge has shown himself to be very partial in the ruling that came down about his not being a diplomat and of course not recognizing the government of Chavez, but also didn't think he could get a fair trial with a jury. And certainly we know what the political situation is like in Miami, and it's the worst place in the United States to be facing the criminal, quote, justice system. In fact, we laughed about the irony that Juan Guaido is free and teaching as a professor there in Miami, where the person, Alex Saab, who tried to feed people and help the Venezuelan people, is behind bars. He also talked about how happy he was that the food situation has improved so much since those very difficult days and years when he was working. He gets information from calls with his wife and from visits from his lawyers. And he said, you know, he has learned that the domestic food production has increased tremendously, that the inflation is being reduced, and he is very happy to hear about those improvements. He was also happy to hear about the very limited but important concessions that the US government has recently made, and hopes that will have a positive impact on the well-being of the Venezuelan people. One thing that impressed me was what he and his lawyers have told me about his relationship with the other prisoners. And you could see that he is indeed a diplomat, even in prison, because he has played a kind of mediating role between different parties in the prison. I asked him, aren't you targeted for your political beliefs when there are right-wing Cubans who are in the prison, Venezuelans? And he says, no, the contrary. They look to me for advice. And he said that a number of the Venezuelans who are there, and this is true of the Cubans, you know, come to the United States with the idea that they will be able to realize the American dream, and how it quickly turns into a nightmare for them. And many of them end up in the prison and wishing they could go back home. And a number of them have been going back home. And the last thing I want to say is that what really impressed me so much was that spirit of commitment, that the US government has tried so many different ways to break him, not only what we talked about of targeting his family members, keeping him in prison, but also with the carrot, not just the stick, and offering him a nice home in Miami, telling him that he could live a good life. They would bring his family there, and wouldn't it be nice for him to be out of prison and in the arms of his loved ones? And he said, you know, I said, how can you just keep going? And he said that he has a commitment to himself, to his own dignity, to his own sense of honor. But of course, his biggest commitment is to the Venezuelan people. And it was great to see him so firm and his head held so high in the midst of this tragic situation that he is in. And I guess lastly, he said that his hope was for a prisoner exchange, given that he doesn't have faith in the US criminal system, that hopefully there would be a chance to exchange some of the prisoners that are being held in Venezuela for him, and that this is something that some of us in the US, including some of the lawyers that have been visiting him, are trying to work on in terms of connecting those families. So that's all I have to report. And again, thank you for giving me the opportunity. And I am totally committed now to doing as much as I can to join with all of you to free Alex Saab.
Thank you, Medea, for that firsthand report. I can hear in your voice what an experience it was, and I know how important it was for Alex Saab to have a visitor to be able to convey his experiences and have someone that can tell us how he's doing. For sure, we understand through his writing and other reports of his commitment within a jail to continue the struggle for his freedom and continue to be a voice that says, I was defending Venezuela's independence and self-determination. I was saving lives. I am unjustly held, and I am innocent of these trumped up charges from the US government. So of course, we also don't think that there will be justice found in the US's courts. Recently, of course, important to remind folks that they postponed yet again Alex Saab's next hearing to June of 2024. So he's really being held in this really unknown state, again, able to receive some visits, but not able to receive, consular visits from Venezuelan diplomatic staff, not able to get proper medical care, a real evaluation of his cancer progression and how his health is. It's absurd, to say the least. As you've said, that he was told to put his feet up to deal with blood pressure is absolutely disgusting. So I think that it's very we just appreciate your time and being here and helping us really expand and grow the campaign for his freedom. Thank you, Medea. You're on mute, but I think you're saying goodbye. So
I
that's
said,
okay
thank you
too.
so much, and sorry I have to leave you. Best
Of course,
all.
yes. Thank you.
Bye.
I also wanted to take this opportunity to remind folks about the Free Alex Saab postcard campaign. There's been a few messages about it in the chat as well. This is a campaign from Fire This Time Movements for Social Justice, the Anti-War Committee in Minnesota, and others who are committed to putting these postcards in the mail to US President Biden to flood the White House and Joe Biden's office with postcards demanding freedom for Alex Saab. There's information about his case on the back, so they're a great tool for public education, to bring to events and actions, and to tell people about his case, as well as an excellent opportunity to be able to engage on social media, which is an important part of campaigning that we do today, because you can take a picture with the postcard, you can share it online, that sort of thing. So there'll be information in the chat about how to join this campaign, and I encourage people, very happy to put some in the mail for you. So to wrap up our panel discussion tonight, we have a speaker joining us from Mexico, who is someone that I wanted to invite tonight specifically because Venezuela Analysis, where he is a journalist, is released a new book called A War Without Bombs. That it's a very important tool in our continued work against this criminal blockade against Venezuela. And so I'm looking forward to hearing more about that book and how we can access it and share it. But José Luis Granados Ceja is also an analyst and an author. It's a journalist based in Mexico City, where he works on a freelance basis covering Latin America, including topics such as elections, social movements, migration, and human rights. He is also a staff writer with Venezuela Analysis, covering regional and international issues, and a host of their podcast. He contributes a monthly opinion column for the Mexico Solidarity Project and is currently pursuing a master's degree in the defense and promotion of human rights at the Universidad Autónoma en la Ciudad de México. Okay, José Luis, the floor is yours. Thank you for joining.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. And first of all, thank you to the organizers and the fellow panelists for their amazing expositions, MEDEA sharing that story of being able to meet with them, and ANAHÍ, who did an incredible job summing up the situation and also doing incredible work on behalf of the people of Venezuela. So it's really quite a privilege for me to be here today, and especially, you know, I was tagged in a post on Twitter to talk about this event, and it was incredible to watch. I was just inundated with notifications. You can really tell that people are engaged with this. You know, it's been many, many months of this work, and I think you can see it in the engagement of people really motivated to share, to talk about this issue, to attend. As the panel has gone on, watching all these messages from literally around the world, it's really quite inspirational to see so many people defending the cause of Venezuela, defending the Bolivarian Revolution, and standing up for Alex Saab, who is unjustly detained by the United States. So as Allison mentioned, we at Venezuela Analysis, we actually are celebrating our 20-year anniversary this year. So we've been around for a really long time, covering Venezuela for an English-speaking audience, doing our best to inform the world, and try to getting over that language barrier to talk about what's happening, and of course talking about sanctions, talking about the economic war, talking about the case of Alex Saab, because it's important that people maintain themselves aware about what's happening, and also in a way that is accessible. It's also why we have a greater presence on social media these days, doing our best to try to reach people through those channels, through the podcast that I host. We have a new episode dropping this week on Thursday. We'll be talking about this book a little bit more. I'll interview Cira Pascual Martina, who's also a member of the staff. And then we'll also talk with Chris Gilbert about his new book on Venezuela called Commune or Nothing. So look forward to that. That'll be available to the public as of Thursday. So you can subscribe anywhere you can get your podcasts. Now, the other instrument that we've decided to put out there is the book. I actually have one of the very rare printed copies, A War Without Bombs. People in Washington and New York, there's still some copies floating around. So if you want a printed copy, it was a very small run, so it's a little bit pricey, but we're asking $30. You know, we can follow up with you if you're interested in purchasing it. But the good news is it is free to available to download on our website to everybody. There are several formats available. There's a one-page version, a two-page spread version. The idea is that it becomes an instrument to use to, yes, understand the situation, the economic, political, social impact of sanctions on Venezuela, but also to revert them. As Allison said at the very beginning, yes, there was some pretty major news last week about sanctions in Venezuela. And at Venezuela Analysis, we were kind of, you know, discussing how do we approach this? What do we call this? Because to be honest, it would be a mistake to say that this is the end of sanctions or that sanctions have been lifted. So the language we've been using is that sanctions have been eased. And I think the first point I would make when we talk about this is that if sanctions have been eased, it's not because of the goodwill of the United States. It's because of the determination of the Venezuelan people to defend their emancipatory political project, to say, no, we will not be subdued by your war without bombs. A war that includes the kidnapping of a diplomat who was working to feed the people of Venezuela. And so that actually, that bringing us together here in this panel kind of reveals the truth about US imperialism, about its so-called commitment to protection of civilian life or human rights or rules-based international order. I think recent events in the world have clearly shown that all of that is a lie. And Venezuela is also a clear example of US policy and the harm that it does, the lengths that will go to try to crush any kind of counter-hegemonic project. And so when we talk about the situation in Venezuela, even though we are before this opening, economic opening that is being brought by this sanction easing, it's also really important that we remember what is this war without bombs? Because as you know, the United States is continuing to dangle a sword over the heads of the Venezuelan people, threatening to lift sanctions at any moment, to end these licenses at any moment, and once again implement these sanctions as heavily as possible to punish the people of Venezuela for daring to elect a government that did not abide by the dictates of Washington, for daring to believe that the natural resources of their country belong to the peoples of Venezuela, and that that wealth should be distributed to the peoples and to the peoples of the Americas. I can't ever forget that Venezuela was incredibly generous to the rest of the world. In fact, as we've seen what's been going on in Palestine, even here in Mexico during one of the demonstrations, there were images of Chavez about his solidarity with the Palestinian people. And so those things we don't forget. And so I think in the same way, we have a duty to not forget about social, political, economic impact of sanctions against Venezuela. And I hope that you use this book in educationals, in workshops, share it amongst your friends. It was a lot of work, I'll be honest. It was mostly led by Cira and Ricardo from the Venezuela analysis team who worked very, very late into the night to make sure everything got done in time. It's a labor of love, and it's a labor of love for the Venezuelan people in particular, so that we document this. I actually want to read to you a little bit from the preface, and I hope you don't mind, because I think it sums up quite well the whole purpose of this book. And again, it's available for free on our website, venezuelaanalysis.com, in various formats. Download it, use it, spread it, do what you need to do. It's there for the people. So, reading from the preface here, quote, "Ever since the election of Hugo Chavez, Washington has been trying to overthrow the Bolivarian Revolution. In recent years, regime change efforts have mostly relied on an all-out economic war against Venezuela with a weapon of choice, unilateral coercive measures, commonly known as sanctions. While Venezuela has hosted 28 elections since 1998, US officials allege that the sanctions were in place to, quote, restore democracy, end quote, in the Caribbean nation. A war without bombs, the social, political, and economic impact of sanctions against Venezuela aims to provide Venezuela analysis readers, internationalists, activists, and people committed to social justice with the tools to understand and collectively revert the devastating impact of the blockade on the people of Venezuela." This publication is divided into 3 sections. In the first part, we bring you articles and infographics that expose the mechanics of coercive measures, delve into their real-life impact, and examine the mass media discourse that legitimizes these deadly practices. The following section features interviews with 3 experts who talk about the political, economic, and social impact of the sanctions regime imposed on Venezuela from a geopolitical perspective. In the last section of this primer, we bring you 2 selections from VA's Communal and Working Class Resistance series. This collection of testimonies looks to unveil the impact of the US blockade on grassroots organizations, from communes to worker-run factories. And it shows that, rain or shine, many in Venezuela are as committed as ever to building a post-capitalist society. So that, in very brief, is a little bit of what the book is. It has lots of existing content that you can find on the website, but also original content. Each member of the team submitted a chapter introducing each section. And we have, it's a little tough with the webcam, but you can see we have our infographics as well, featuring the content that we've published over the years, some new graphics. I do also want to highlight the role of utopics which helped us with the design. They're super talented, really, really fantastic comrades as well, who are doing this work, yes, because they're talented, but also because they're committed, because they believe in using their skills to help distribute these ideas to the population. Beyond that, like I said, please use the material as much as you can, as much as you are able to do in terms of getting that information out. I think particularly with this recent news that happened as a result of some negotiations with the political hardline opposition in Venezuela, we're going to see a shift in rhetoric. There's going to be this effort to try to pretend like the US did not engage in a years-long war without bombs to punish the people of Venezuela. They're going to try to make it seem like the economic situation in the country, which is likely going to see, if they remain lifted in that sense, if they remain suspended, pretty rapid. And so I suspect there's going to be this effort to try to portray the situation as being the doing of those bad socialist leaders in South America, those caudillos, those authoritarians. And I think it's always important to remember that the people who go on television and talk about human rights and a rules-based international order are the same people who did this to the people of Venezuela for all the reasons we described above. And in particular, because we're here today to talk about the situation of Alex Saab, that we're willing to go to these lengths to take, as we heard so eloquently, somebody who was just convinced by the people of Venezuela, as I was. That's a personal aside. The reason I'm a Venezuela solidarity activist was because in 2005, I went to the World Festival of Youth and Students, and I met an incredible community of people who were deeply committed to political transformation, who showed me that political work from below, organizing the people, the masses, the working class, the campesinos, the informal sector, into a political struggle can deliver real results for people. And when the United States, the politicians there in Washington saw that, they decided they wanted to crush it. And to go to the lengths, as we said, to kidnap a diplomat who was only interested in working to attend to the humanitarian crisis produced by the US regime change operations inside of the country. I thought it was particularly moving to hear the way that, he's very much personally affected emotionally, physically, as a result of this kidnapping by the United States government, this refusal to recognize his diplomatic credentials, this idea that some random person in a plaza can raise his hand and call himself president, and people in Washington will pretend like that's the case. All of that obeys an imperialist logic, a neo-colonial logic of a government, no matter who's in charge, Democrats or Republicans, that are insistent on maintaining their hegemony in the world by any means necessary, including violence against the people and the disrespect of a man, like we said, who's committed to try to alleviate the situation and paying a very high price. And so, again, reading the chat, seeing the enthusiasm of the people, I'm sure he is heartened by that. I know that the Venezuelan people are heartened by the support. International solidarity has played a really critical role in also standing up to US imperialism, and something that we have to do. And I'll close on this. I was actually recently in the United States. I did a speaking tour to talk about this book and then the situation in Mexico. A lot of what they're doing to Venezuela, looks like they're trying to do to Mexico. This is how US imperialism operates. It is a declining empire who's seeking to reassert its hegemony through violence, through the use of force, through undermining elections. And so we have a really important duty as internationalists. It's a term we should wear with pride, that clearly everybody here is duly representing in order to resist empire from within the belly of the beast, from our countries of origin, from our homes as well, because the truth is, only that way will we be able to get free and defeat our collective adversaries. And I think seeing everything tonight shows that we are successful in uniting our struggles. Again, I want to extend a thanks to the organizers for putting us together, having all these people tune in today. That too is a product of all your consistent hard work, and also the fellow panelists who did such a good job speaking about the situation in Venezuela and what Alex Saab is facing. So again, VenezuelaAnalysis.com, A War Without Bombs, free. It's a PDF. If you want to buy it, you can find it in a handful of places in Washington and in New York. But maybe we'll do another tour. Maybe we'll have a chance to meet in person again, because I think it's important. It goes a long way. It means a lot to be able to have a conversation like this, via Zoom and also in person. So thanks again. Que viva la revolución.
Que viva. Thank you, Jose Luis. Yes, I would, of course, very appreciate a Pacific Coast tour that could span some equally important populated areas on the west coast of the continent. Yeah, let's talk. Let's think. We have time. Wanted to thank you for bringing the book, for your podcast. I posted the most recent episode and kind of the Spotify link, but it's pretty easy to find on any app if you search Venezuela Analysis Podcast. The last one was challenging the bipartisan imperialist consensus on Venezuela. So I think that's going to be well-timed discussion when it comes to US presidential elections as well. And just to emphasize that we've already really started to hear when it comes to Venezuela's electoral process, the US government has laid down their so-called conditions very predictable. This is only democratic if the person we think should win wins the elections, and that will be parroted definitely from the government of Canada and that of the UK and other US allies. And it's our job to combat those lies. And Venezuela Analysis has been a critical tool in that struggle, and your work as well. So thanks for joining us here today. Yes, let's share the books we've all added to our reading list today with this book and with ANAHÍ's book as well. There's a lot of information out there, but we have to. It takes time to read it and distribute, but it's well worth it. It's important. So that concludes our panel discussion here today. There are some folks that are ready and excited to give some greetings who wanted to join us in order to share about what they've been working on and their struggles. One of whom I'm hoping we can get him on the line pretty quickly. It's Dimeji, who is joining us from Nigeria. Dimeji wanted to come today to share his support for Venezuela and against the sanctions and for Alex Saab. And hopefully we'll be able to give us, share us a few words. It is a very early morning hour in Nigeria, so we might need a minute to get himself ready, but hopefully we'll have some words from Dimeji in a second. And I'll just take a second to promote a few others who are going to give us some greetings. Again, I'll take this second to say thank you so much to Julieta and to Mercedes for your translations and interpretations here today and continued efforts. It is not an easy task. And as well, all of our speakers who have joined us. When we are able to take our group photo. If everyone kind of wants to get ready from that, it won't be too far from now. Go ahead and get your t-shirt ready or a sign, or just your fists. We're ready to chant together. So we'll go ahead and start that in a second. As well, I wanted to let folks know that there are a few folks that did have to send regrets tonight, including from Just Peace Advocates, one of the co-organizers of tonight's panel. Many folks, of course, are out in the streets organizing for Palestine and were unable to join us. But I appreciate everyone who's come here tonight in order to share with us and in order to join in uniting our voices. For the next online picket, I will quickly just announce that will take place in November. We typically have them on the last Tuesdays of the month. So the next one will be on Tuesday, November 28th, again at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and we will have crossed the time change line, so it will become 8 o'clock in the evening in Caracas. Okay, so let me take a look at my screen and see we can do to get our friend from Nigeria on to join us. One second, please. Okay. I will start inviting people to join the panel and join our picture. And if we're able to get Demeji online, then we will hear our greetings from our co-fighter in Nigeria. You should receive a panelist link if you want to turn on your camera and share your photo, then that is great. We will also eventually unmute so that we can chant and unite our voices together. The monthly online pickets began as a result of coordination between the Venezuela Peace Committee in Winnipeg, Fire This Time Movement for Social Justice, Venezuela Solidarity Campaign, and Just Peace Advocates, in response to the pandemic, in response to our inability to be able to go to the steps of the US consulate and raise our demands and voices there. So we are able to now extend the pickets. We can once again go to the US consulate and go to the streets together, but we can also unite our voices online. Has been an important advantage to really raising our work and elevating our work for freedom for Alex Saab and against the US and Canada sanctions on Venezuela. You can see folks starting to get ready. Okay, everyone. So I think we are in touch with our friend from Nigeria, Demeji, and we'll hopefully have our greetings soon. It is good to start seeing your lovely faces and having you all here together tonight. Again, if you've received an invitation, please accept if you would like to be on screen. And if you haven't received one, thank you, Katerina. Yes, let me know in the chat.
Thank you very much.
Demeji, hello.
Hello, thank you. Hola, compañera. Hello, how are you?
Doing well, thank you. It's great to have you. Thank you for staying up tonight. Would you like to give your greetings from Nigeria?
Yes, I bring you solidarity from Nigeria, from the Venezuela Solidarity Campaign. From Nigeria, we are also worried about the world situation. We are worried about continued absence of basic human rights of people. We are worried that America continue to keep Alex Saab, a diplomat, away from his family for close to 3 years now. We are also worried that they don't want justice for Alex Saab. From Nigeria, we have been part of the campaign. Even before that, we have been part of the Unblock Venezuela, US Answer Venezuela campaign. We are a group of socialists, trade unionists, community organizers, and social movement fighting to defend the rights of Venezuela, to defend the right of Venezuela to dignity, to sovereignty. And I also appreciate the works you are doing in Toronto to defend and to mount prayer, to fight for support to free diplomat Alex Saab. We are inspired by your work. On December 16th, this year again, we want to organize a musical concert in order to bring youths together to chant Free Alex Saab. Also, we have done it in the past, press conference in Nigeria. We have done a rally. We have done a public program where speakers speak from about 7 countries to demand freedom for Alex Saab. We are sure and we are hopeful that one day, someday, diplomat Alex Saab will reunite with Camilla, the wife, and the children, and will continue to work for the people of Venezuela. We are inspired by your work. We appreciate your continued support, and we mean that continue to unite together. We are planning towards a freedom concert, like I've said, in December 16th. I continue to carry the organizers of this monthly online rally along. We'll be trying to be part of this meeting for long, but unfortunately, the time zone in Nigeria, this meeting starts 12 midnight Nigerian time. Because of our commitment and our sacrifices, we have to wake up in the midnight to be part of this meeting. So we appreciate and we will continue to fight global capitalism and imperialism, the unity of the oppressed people across the world is very, very important. And what we have displayed with the support to Alex Saab shows that the unity of the people, united can never be defeated. It's a pleasure that we continue to be part of this event. I'll continue to try our best to be part of the movement internationally, fight against global capitalism, to fight against the US, continue attacks on other country. Thank you very much. Once again, I bring you solidarity from Nigeria. Amandla, away to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Demeji, for staying up with us tonight to join the picket. We are very grateful to have co-fighters from Nigeria in this struggle in defense of Venezuela's sovereignty and self-determination. And for Alex Saab, it is with a united and broad international movement that we will win. And so thank you so much. I put a photo on the screen while you were talking so folks could get an idea of what you look like, and it was really great to have your words. Thank you so much. So now we will conclude our greetings section of the meeting and go to the photo again. I know many people are already ready. You are excellent, experienced at the group photo, but there are some that I think we're waiting on an invitation. So if you haven't received the invitation to turn on your camera, please raise your hand or put your name in the chat and we'll do that quickly. Otherwise, yes, let's all get ready. Okay, yes, we're still missing some here. 1 second. Here we are. Okay. And people are continuing also unable to turn on their camera to post in the chat. Yes, please. Thank you again to everyone for joining us here tonight, to our excellent panelists. ANAHÍ ARIZMENDI from UNAMUJER in Venezuela, José Luis Granados Ceja from Venezuela Analysis, and MEDEA BENJAMIN from Code Pink, as well as once again to Dimenji Makale from Nigeria. And please let us unite our voices. You should be able to unmute your device. We'll also turn off interpretation. Thank you again to Julieta and Mercedes. Let's unite our voices and say, "Free Alex Saab!
Free
Alex Saab.
Alex Saab.
Free Alex Saab.
Free
Alex Saab.
Free Alex Saab.
Alex Saab.
Free Alex Saab.
End the blockade on Venezuela!
End the blockade.
Hands off Venezuela!
Hands off Venezuela.
Hands off Venezuela.
All right, everyone.
Y
We
viva
will see
Chávez.
you.
Viva Chávez.
Viva.
Viva.
Viva Chávez.
Viva.
We will see you at the next action, November 28th, to demand free Alex Saab, US, Canada, hands off Venezuela, monthly pickets organized by the Venezuela Peace Committee in Winnipeg, Fire This Type of Movement for Social Justice, and Just Peace Advocates. Free Alex Saab.
Free Alex Saab.
Free Alex Saab.
Good night.
Alex Saab.
Free Alex Saab.